Hello. Today we're going to be talking about the two churches of China. I'll be referencing Dr. Tim Sisk, who is the Associate Dean of Faculty Development in the Intercultural Studies Department at Moody Bible Institute. He makes the point that in America we really need to try to understand China in order to grasp a little of what it's like. One of his first points is that in China everything is political. There are, of course, various levels of politics, just like we have local, city, county, state, and so on. They have similar but different governing structures, but they don't all agree on religion, or they may have different prohibitions on certain religious practices. So when we hear a story of persecution of Christians in China, it isn't likely to be everywhere in China. We know, but we forget how very large China is. China's population is just under 1.4 billion, according to the CIA World Factbook. It's estimated that about 10% of those people are Christians, which is about 130 million people. But that also means that there's still over 1 billion people who are of some other faith or none. So when it comes to the two churches of China, well, we know from history that Christianity has been in China since the 7th century, and there's been waves of growth and decline over the centuries. This is from a historian, Dr. Philip Jenkins of Baylor University. We also know that more recently, in the revolution in the middle of the last century, there was a time when Christianity was vigorously persecuted. But in the middle of that time, Bishop K.H. Ting negotiated with the government to have a Christian church that would be loyal to the Chinese government and to Chinese culture. Broadly, this is the Three Self Church, or the Registered Church of China. Three Self means self-supporting, self-propagating, and self-governing. These people want the church to be Chinese in influence and not have to be subject to Western Christian influences. They have church-sponsored schools and a seminary, and a variety of viewpoints, with some on the very orthodox side and some who express non-biblical opinions. The other Chinese church is the Unregistered Church, which is sometimes underground, but often meets in public in areas where it's allowed. This church sprang from those people who were thrown into jail during that revolution time, and yet they maintained their faith. These churches are quite unregulated, but they're growing very quickly, and they're all over the place in terms of theology. While many are biblical, others are not. There's little chance for leadership training, and so heresies can spring up without any safeguard. You can imagine for the Chinese government trying to keep 1.4 billion people united as a country and all moving in the same direction towards a positive vision of the future. What we see is that China is much more fragile, in the words of Dr. Sisk, than we typically view it. It's deeply concerned about outside influences, especially from the Western world, that might derail the country as a whole or stimulate dissatisfaction with the government. When Christianity is seen as purveying Western political and economic ideology, churches will be persecuted. There's a deep division between these two churches, with the Three Self Church being protected but controlled by the government, while the Unregistered Church being at times persecuted as government policy varies, often in reaction against Western pressures. We need to be careful not to label one church as bad and one church as good. It's more complex than we can determine from our American cultural viewpoint with our strong political preferences. This is an ever-changing situation, and to better understand the two churches of China, we need to understand China's culture and history much better.